The abiotic factors in ecosystems contribute to the physical part of the environment. They include such things as water, soil, air, heat, and light. Physical environments never remain the same for very long. They are continually subjected to the forces of erosion, weather, ocean currents, volcanic events, destructive human activities, and so forth. Naturally, some of these things will cause problems for organisms because changes in the physical environment usually alter their feeding habits, population size, range, and rates of growth. Oftentimes, environmental changes can result in the complete extinction of a species. And sometimes, they bring about the formation of a new species through adaptation. In other words, physical, abiotic factors directly and continually influence the way that life develops on Earth. And that is why it is useful to understand some of the important roles they play in ecosystems. The first abiotic factor, water, is essential to life on Earth. And even though water is a very commonplace substance, it is capable of doing many remarkable things. For example, within a relatively small temperature range, it can exist as a solid in ice and snow, as a gas in clouds and fog, or as free-flowing liquid water. In its liquid form, water is an incredibly powerful force when it comes to shaping the landscape through erosion. Most of our planet's surface is covered with water. As a result, for most organisms, water is a basic external medium where critical life activities take place. Activities such as searching for food, escaping from predators, and mating. Water plays several other important roles in external environments as well. For example, water carries dissolved gases, such as the oxygen needed by aquatic animals and the carbon dioxide needed by aquatic plants. And bodies of water act as heat sinks to slow down the effects of large temperature changes, thereby helping to create a more stable environment for the living things that dwell in or around them. But water's important role in external environments is more than matched by the many crucial roles it plays in the internal environments of organisms. The bodies of living things are mostly made up of water. This jellyfish, for example, is 99% water. Water acts as a powerful solvent, both externally and internally. This means that many of the chemicals upon which life depends can only be absorbed into cells and react with one another when they are dissolved in water. Water is even a key biochemical ingredient inside of cells, where it contributes its hydrogen and oxygen atoms to many vital processes, such as photosynthesis. Air is the second key abiotic factor that contributes to ecosystems. Air provides an external medium in which flying organisms can move about, and in which pollen and seeds can be dispersed. Air is a mixture of several different gases. 78% of air is nitrogen gas. 21% is oxygen gas. The remaining 1% consists mostly of carbon dioxide, water vapor, ozone, helium, argon, and krypton. 4 of these substances, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water, endlessly circulate between the air and living organisms, creating important natural cycles upon which all life depends. The survival of many living things requires a reliable supply of clean, fresh water. This critical task is accomplished by what is called the water cycle. In the water cycle, warmth causes the evaporation of liquid water into water vapor. Water vapor rises into the air where it can form steam, fog, mist, or clouds. But large amounts of water vapor also escape into the air from the leaves of plants in a process called transpiration, and from animals as they carry out aerobic respiration. Whenever liquid water is converted into a gas, it becomes purified. And when water vapor in the air is cooled, the purified water undergoes condensation and falls back to the Earth's surface as rain or snow, where it can be used by living things once again. Almost all organisms need oxygen to survive. In nature, oxygen is continually recycled thanks to what is called the oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle. The cycle begins when oxygen atoms from the environment are chemically transferred to carbon atoms in sugar during the important cellular process called aerobic respiration. This turns the sugar into carbon dioxide and water molecules that are released back into the environment. However, the main purpose of aerobic respiration is to free up the energy stored in the chemical bonds of sugar so the organism can use it. This is why oxygen is inhaled and why carbon dioxide and water vapor are exhaled back into the air. During the second part of the cycle, which takes place in plants and algae, the carbon dioxide and water from aerobic respiration are used in photosynthesis to make more energy-rich sugar and to release new oxygen back into the environment. And so, via the complementary processes of photosynthesis and aerobic respiration, the oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle helps to sustain a large number of the Earth's living things. A third important natural cycle is called the nitrogen cycle. All living things need nitrogen because it is a component of both DNA and protein. Yet even though air is more than 3/4 nitrogen, the element cannot be used by most living things in the form of nitrogen gas. However, there are some very primitive organisms called nitrogen-fixing bacteria that are able to use nitrogen gas to make new chemical compounds. Within the roots of plants called legumes, such as sweet peas and beans, nitrogen-fixing bacteria form rounded root nodules like these. From here, the bacteria directly supply the plant with usable nitrogen. Once nitrogen has been incorporated into plant tissue, it is passed through food chains from consumer to consumer. Some usable nitrogen is returned to the environment whenever animals eliminate wastes. And during the process of decay, decomposer bacteria break down complex nitrogen compounds into much simpler compounds called nitrates that are easily absorbed by plants. The final link in the nitrogen cycle is forged when another class of bacteria, called denitrifying bacteria, break down nitrogen compounds in the soil and release nitrogen gas back into the air. After air and water, soil is the third major abiotic factor that contributes to physical environments. Soil is the basic medium for most land-based ecosystems. Plants grow in it, animals burrow through it, and so on. Soil plays a key role in the nitrogen cycle because it is the site of both nitrogen fixation and denitrification. Soil is a complex and varied substance. It is formed from rock by the weathering action of wind and water, and by acid-secreting lichens like these that break down solid rock into tiny particles. Soil is a natural reservoir for the inorganic mineral elements that are essential to living things. Elements such as iron, zinc, calcium, and phosphorus. But the best soil also contains a lot of organic material called humus that originates from living things. The formation of humus is helped along by a variety of animals, including worms and termites like these, that help break down organic material into smaller and smaller pieces. Humus is not only rich in nutrients, it also gives soil the ability to retain water. Soils with a lot of humus support abundant plant life, and because plants are food producers, humus indirectly fosters abundant animal life too. In contrast, ecosystems where poorer soils predominate rarely support such an abundance of living things. As can be seen, soil is yet another abiotic factor that can exert a strong influence on the lives of countless organisms. Heat is a fourth major abiotic factor that affects ecosystems. Most heat energy on the Earth's surface originates in the sun. The effects of heat are very obvious, for tropical environments where warmth predominates possess quite different life forms from those of cold mountain environments. And temperate environments, where warm and cool months tend to even out, support their own special life forms. One reason heat has such powerful effects on organisms is that the biochemical processes of life are very temperature dependent. Too much or too little heat causes biochemical reactions to fail. And temperature extremes can bring about the physical destruction of cells and tissues as well. But besides actually causing harm, temperature can influence organisms in a great many ways. For example, in ecosystems subjected to long, harsh winters, most mammals will develop extra fat reserves to store energy and grow more fur to help them keep warm. Without adequate warmth, seeds will not sprout. And several kinds of fruit trees native to temperate regions actually need both a cold and a warm period in order to flower and bear fruit. So it is easy to see why heat is such an important abiotic factor in shaping ecosystems. Light is the fifth of the major abiotic factors affecting organisms. Nearly all natural light on Earth is a form of energy that is radiated by the sun. Plants and algae cannot survive without light, so they are never found growing in completely dark places such as caves, or in deep water where the light does not penetrate. The main reason light is so important to living systems is that it is needed for photosynthesis. Therefore, the production of food and oxygen both depend on light. Of course, light is essential to lots of other biological processes as well, such as flowering in plants, the sense of sight in animals, and the migration of birds. And so light, like the other abiotic factors of water, air, soil, and heat, plays a very significant role when it comes to creating the Earth's ecosystems. True or false? Water is a product of aerobic respiration. True or false? Air is mostly oxygen gas. True or false? Transpiration is a process that occurs in plants. True or false? Humus in soil comes from eroded rock. True or false? Nitrogen-fixing bacteria live in the roots of certain plants.